Welcome to Daily Plunge. We are in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17. We're going to go verses 1 through 18. Starts off that God's people, their sin is engraved with an iron tool on their hearts and on the places of false worship, because it says on the horns of their altars, not the altar in the temple. And that where their heart is and where their worship is where their sin is written. But, ultimately, our sin is engraved forever with iron nails in Jesus Christ, the risen Christ even. And that's where our sin ends up being engraved. And, that's the thing, that these people are worshiping other gods, their places of worship, the altars, the poles. And in that, they are forfeiting God's grace. And one of the theologies that Jeremiah, well, really the Word of God is speaking against, is this idea of once saved, always saved. And what Jeremiah is saying to the people of Judah, and what the Word of God says to us now is, you can forfeit, you can reject God's grace. That will happen to you. And verse 3 says that their kids are watching, they remember their altars. The kids watch your worship, and they watch what you idolize, what you value. And if it's not God, because you don't take your kids to church every Sunday, they'll remember that too. They do. Verse 5, if you trust, he says, in human strength, or this temporary flesh, you're doomed. Because how can you draw strength from that which is doomed to death anyways, And so when you draw strength out of the things of this world, you're like a tumbleweed in the desert. But he says, it goes on that he says that the person who is planted in the Lord, right, who trusts in the Lord, they're like the tree planted by the river, by the stream, that even in a time of drought, it's still fruitful. And that's where we're called to be. And this is an image that we see in Psalm 1, verses 3 through 4. And then we get down to verse 9. The heart is deceitful above all things. It is beyond cure. And this strikes right at our modern day philosophy of, follow your heart. And the heart wants what the heart wants. And what the heart wants is selfishness and self-pleasure and sin. And God calls it the way it is. Don't follow your heart, because it can't be cured. It has to be replaced with the heart that God gives you. And Jesus, the Lord, says in verse 10, that I, the Lord, I'm an expert on the heart, because I search you down to the bone, right? I search your heart, your mind, and you'll be rewarded according to your deeds. If you want to live by the law, you're going to receive the law. If you want to be rewarded according to your deeds, if you want to live by karma, then don't be surprised, and that's what you get, instead of living by God's grace. He goes on to say that those who live by that he is a spring of water. And we think about that from John chapter 4, Jesus says this, that he is a source of living water. And then again, Revelation 21. Jeremiah calls himself a faithful servant shepherd. Now, even though he's a prophet. And then finally, he talks about how persecutors will be shamed. But in order to see our persecutors shamed, you got to realize you're going to endure that persecution. A lot to cover, friends. Thanks. Have a blessed day.